Okay, just wait a second, I know you read the title, but just hear me out. Spider-Man 2, overall, it's a pretty good game. Like, it's not a bad game by any means. It's worth my money. It was absolutely enjoyable. I had such a great time. The story was amazing. But there is just a few problems I want to discuss about this game because I've seen people talk about it and I want to talk about it as well. Now, these problems are not game-breakingly bad. They are not making me want to refund every purchase I've made of Spider-Man. That award would actually go to Mortal Kombat 1. We'll talk about that soon. But to me, these problems kind of just make me feel disappointed about this release compared to the previous Spider-Man or even Miles Morales. So let's start with the first problem, my biggest, most hated, disgusting problem in this game, that someone at Insomniac thought this was a good costume idea. Who made this
It's time for a Miles Morales original, you know? One of one. That shit's ass, bro.
It also just makes no sense that this is a Miles Morales original when the previous suit was a Miles Morales original. Whoever made this design, fire them. They shall never be allowed to cook this ever again. But anyway, to the second point. So a problem for me is the game's whole selling point, which is you have both Spider-Man at your disposal. You can play as both of these characters. And they're really proud of this, but they actually should be because the Spider-Man are perfect. Like, these are amazing characters. It's just the gameplay of them feels so lackluster. I'm going to be heavily referencing Grand Theft Auto 5 because they took that trope of having multiple characters and they did it very, very, very well. Now, Grand Theft Auto and Spider-Man 2 have what I'd like to call very limited open world maps. Now, they're not limited in a sense of they're small because they are actually gargantuan, but they are limited because there's not much you can actually do in these worlds. There's not many buildings you can interact with, and there's not many other things that you can do outside of the story. Now, with Grand Theft Auto 5, you have three main characters, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor. And with the open world being so vast yet also kind of small, you are able to meet either three of these characters while you're going around the map. And in meeting these characters, it's possible for you to hang out with them, for you to shoot cops with them, for you to go have drinks with them, for you to play tennis with them. GTA 5 did a good job in making players interact more with the other main characters. That's a really good thing. Now, in all fairness, this is one of my assumptions, so I'm disappointed in that, and that's my fault. It's not the fault of the developers. But when you have these two characters in a vast open world, I'd expect for you to do more with Miles Morales and Peter Parker than simply just high five and leave. I like that hanging out feature in Grand Theft Auto 5. I was really hoping that would be prominent in this game. If you see Miles swinging around the city, it could have been possible for you to stop and Miles would ask to hang out with you and you would accept that. Then you and Miles would go swinging across the city. Not only that, but then you could have dialogue that is related to what's going on in the story at the moment. There are so many amazing things that you could have done, and it felt like you pretty much underused that amazing feature that you brought to this game. Now, I saw a comment that someone said where they were disappointed at the fact that the open world didn't have working subways, didn't have the possibility for Spider-Man to get pizza, and a lot of people are dismissing that as a stupid argument, but hear me out. It's evident that Pete and Miles aren't going to be in a pub having pints, so obviously this Grand Theft Auto mechanic might not work with them. Both Spider-Man have been shown to have a keen interest in pizza, right? So why not have something like both Spider-Man going to get pizza? Maybe even during these hanging out moments there could be crimes going on, they could spot a collectible and they could work it out together. When you have these two characters, there should be so much that you could do with them. It's also really annoying at the fact that you can't do certain collectibles with a certain Spider-Man. Understandably, that's for story reasons, but it's still a bit of a hassle when you have to switch characters and then swing all the way back over there. Yes, I know the fast travel exists, but you have to actually do stuff in those districts to unlock it, and a lot of people most of the time are just simply doing the story stuff, so they wouldn't really unlock it. Now, the story is a problem for me. It's a great story, the writing is really good, I really enjoyed everything about it. There's just one problem with it. Again, referring back to GTA 5, many missions that include the trio usually have you swapping between them during the missions. This is both a mandatory thing and an optional thing in the game, but this is really good because you as the player can interact with several aspects of this big mission. So you're interacting with the mission as a whole. You're not doing one aspect of the mission, you're doing all three aspects of the mission. However, in Spider-Man 2, many missions are very much limited to one Spider-Man, and half the time the other Spider-Man may join in, but most of the time you're either forced to switch to that other Spider-Man or you're stuck with the Spider-Man you're playing as, while the other aspect of the mission is given to the AI. This game's selling point is that you have two Spider-Man, yet these missions just feel like one Spider-Man but the other one's there as backup. Sometimes I feel like it's lacking sense when Spider-Man's chasing the lizard through the city and Miles Morales is nowhere to be seen, despite the fact that he would actively be trying to stop the lizard too. Now, don't try to give me that Miles Morales is trying to focus on his life thing outside of Spider-Man, because in this story, it's consistently showing us that Miles is ditching his private life and running to being Spider-Man, which is a good My light just died. I love Spider-Man, but you have to admit at some point it gets boring beating the same people over and over again. And speaking of the waves of enemies, now the brutes and the armed enemies are always like constant. That's gonna happen, I understand. The hunters were really enjoyable to fight against. I felt they were really fun, and I liked having to dodge their moves, having to parry around them. It was fun. But then Venom came into the game, and I was actually excited to fight Venom and to do all that. But then when Venom was free, there was this mission where you had to go find Harry, and you come across a woman who's being taken over by a symbiote, and that introduced the various symbiote enemies you had to fight against when you're trying to get to Venom. And I hate these things, man. Genuinely, I hate it. I hated the symbiotes so much more than I hated the hunters. The hunters was such an entertaining fight. There's no doubt about it. I had fun fighting against the hunters. They didn't feel over the top. They didn't feel annoying. But when New York City is taken by symbiote monsters, at some point it stopped feeling like Spider-Man, I'll be honest with you. Now, Spider-Man's usually had these enemy problems that I feel are kind of persistent. The same could be said with the Underground from Miles Morales. They were a bit annoying to fight against. But there were also very good enemy variations, such as Roxxon, such as the average thugs, such as the demons. They were all fun to fight against. But I really dislike the symbiote enemies you had to start fighting. And I'm equally as annoyed at the fact that the symbiote nests stay when you finish the game, and you have to fight him again. Now, there is a problem with some various bugs and glitches. These aren't game breaking, but you will find yourself having to restart some missions a few times. It's quite irritating, but then again, I'm playing this game a couple of days after it released. I do expect to encounter some bugs. But overall, my dissatisfaction with the game is the fact that it really doesn't feel like they're utilizing both Spider-Man, and it feels like it's constantly parrying back and forth when it should have been a dual Spider-Man game playing with both Spider-Man and focusing on both of them. Peter Parker and Harry Osborn were so much more prioritized in the story than Miles Morales and Martin Lee. Like, you literally forget about Martin Lee after the mission where he escapes, and the game tries to remind you again with some exposition and some dialogue, but in general you completely forget about Martin Lee and you're worried about Spider-Man and the symbiote and Kraven. But overall, this game was actually worth my money. I had a lot of fun playing it, but in total complete honesty, I will not be going back to this game now that I've finished the story. I personally lost enjoyment in the game as soon as I finished the story, and this is a common thing that both other Spider-Man releases had with them as well, so I completely understand that this game would have it too. In the future, I hope Insomniac find a way to counter that problem and these games become way more enjoyable and way more fun to play, even after completing the main story. But overall, the stories in these games are absolutely amazing. Keep them coming, Insomniac. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.